Tonight, at long last, Marine Atlantic's newest ferry pulls into port in Argentia.
The Alasuinu makes her maiden voyage to Argentia after delays due to mechanical issues.
Disastrous, I guess you can sum it up in one word.
I would say $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 gone.
I'm Heather Gillis, and I'll have that story with the impact on the business community coming up on Here and Now.
NL Hydro says it's likely demand for electricity will grow, and it will have to spend as much as $1.5 billion on new infrastructure to meet that demand.
Between now and 2030 is when we hope to have some decisions made and some other projects under construction to allow for Holyrood's retirement.
Coming up.
There was a TV show that was filming an episode here. They had actually taken down all the signs and put up signs that said Portland, Maine on them, and they had all the cars there that had Maine license plates, and everybody's like, wait a second, we're all from Maine.
Well, hundreds of students aboard this American training vessel got an unexpected treat when they pulled into port in St. John's.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Marine Atlantic's newest ferry, the Alasuinu, has made her maiden voyage from Nova Scotia. The crossing was delayed for weeks because of mechanical issues, and that took a big bite out of local tourism. Here Now's Heather Gillis was in Argentia as the ferry pulled into port.
Like a ghost ship emerging from the mist, the Alasuinu docked in Argentia around 9 this morning for the first time. A welcome sight for people in the area, many coming out to watch as the first 400-odd passengers started rolling off the ferry. Passengers like Robert Walker from Montreal, whose travel plans were unaffected by the ship's mechanical issues.
It was nice because at 5:30 we went to our cabin, take all the luggage and everything, go to the bar, take a small drink and eat, and after that, good night's sleep.
The Alasuinu's maiden voyage first scheduled for June 14th, almost a month ago. Sailings delayed due to problems with fuel and lubrication lines. As many as 8,000 passengers had canceled crossings from Argentia, having to instead make a trek to Port aux Basques, 850 kilometers away. No ferry here meant no passengers and no customers for Cecilia McFarlane.
Well, we've had a zero business because it's a big impact for this whole area. My shop, especially, Island Arts and Crafts, where I rely solely on Marine Atlantic ferries coming into Argentia.
A tough pill to swallow since McFarlane orders product in October for the season ahead from suppliers across the province. A third of the season now lost, along with a lot of money.
I would say $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 gone.
A similar story over at the nearby Sunset RV Park.
Disastrous, I guess you can sum it up in one word.
It's a social enterprise with 12 to 20 camper cancellations a day and fewer just popping by. Lost money here means less for programs for the Freshwater Community Centre, says Dan Culleton.
I'd say between $12,000 and $15,000. And that's only for this local small organization.
The Alasuinu departs for Nova Scotia tonight, but next week some crossings will be cancelled again on the 17th and 18th so a new crew can get familiar with the ship. Meanwhile, the business community here is hoping they can recover from what has been lost. Heather Gillis, CBC News, Argentia.
Well, Memorial University students are expressing concerns over housing next summer. MUN plans to shut down most of its residences to house the nearly 5,000 athletes coming for the 2025 Canada Games. The CBC's Abby Cole has more.
When the 2025 Canada Summer Games comes to St. John's, this corner of Memorial University campus will become the athletes' village. Planning for life in the village is well underway.
We will welcome up to 4,600 to 4,800 athletes, coaches, and managers from all provinces and territories across the country. So the athletes will be staying at Memorial University, and we're working very closely with them now on all the details and plans. Thousands will be coming next summer.
When the athletes move in, 200 students will have to move out and find a place to live. In a city where housing is already tight, next summer will be challenging for people like Hassan Habib. He needs to take courses next summer to finish his degree. To do that, he needs a place to live.
the fact that residences closed down during the summer semester is a big problem. You have to look for the students first thing. They are your tuition payers, and they are your first constituents that you have to support. And MUN did not do that.
Memorial University Students' Union is cautiously optimistic about next summer. They say it's MUN's responsibility to make sure every student has housing.
It's on our campus, it's our students. There's already a significant amount of housing precarity. I would say probably half of the people who come to me in the run of a day are experiencing housing issues.
Munsu's cautious optimism about student housing around the Games also comes with a hard line.
We currently have a lot of our services that are kind of being negotiated to use with the Canada Games, and we're more than happy to do so, but we're absolutely not willing to budge if it means that students will be unhoused. So Canada Games will not be welcome in Munsu space if any student is unhoused.
Jordan Wright leads MUN's 2025 Canada Games project team. He says there are plans to support students when the athletes move in.
Notified everyone back in May sort of what the scene would look like for next year. And then we've also identified some supports to help those that would be impacted. So we do have an additional accommodations person that will help those who are impacted find alternate accommodations. And as always, we do have some limited emergency funds available to help students in one-off cases, whether it's with housing or groceries or other things. So we also do have some funding identified if needed to work with students.
The Games may be a year away, but for the nearly 200 students who plan to call campus home next summer, the hunt for a place to live is already underway. Abby Cole, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro says it's getting ready for a big increase in demand for electricity over the next 10 years. But will the need outpace Hydro's capacity? Here Now's Mark Quinn brings us this update.
NL Hydro says demand for energy is going to grow. It says a conservative estimate is that the island of Newfoundland will need 16% more energy in 2034 than it did in 2023. It expects greater demand for electric vehicles, more electric home heating, and more demand from industry. Furthermore, NL Hydro expects to retire the half-century-old thermal generating station at Holyrood by 2030. That, combined with the growing need, means the utility will have to find ways to increase capacity. NL Hydro's president says these three things combined could accomplish that.
New unit at Bay d'Espoir, so it would be an 8th unit to the existing 7 units. Some combustion turbines or a combustion turbine on the Avalon, as well as some new wind energy that we would procure from private proponents.
The cost of the first two parts of that plan are expected to be as much as $1.6 billion. But Williams says ratepayers don't need to worry about an increase related to this just yet.
So as it relates to how this new set of expenditures would be incorporated, it doesn't go into any kind of rates or recovery until the assets are online and commissioned, and I would suggest we're into the 2030s by the time that would happen. So we do have time to understand how do we deal with whatever costs might arise from this.
Exactly what NL Hydro will do to meet that growing demand and how much it will cost hasn't been determined yet. NL Hydro says it expects to be before the PUB with a plan late this year or early next year. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, fire crews in Labrador are getting a bit of a break today. No new forest fires have started since last night, and the latest fire near Churchill Falls is now considered under control. Rain today and yesterday is also helping firefighting efforts. The province's forest fire duty officer says crews are continuing to focus on fires closest to communities, but crews will change course if conditions worsen.
And I do think tomorrow's weather may play a role in that. We're going to keep an eye on that. Some dry conditions, some warm temperatures, and some wind expected in the forecast. Let's take a look at what's happening right now, though. We've got the remnants of Beryl affecting most of Nova Scotia at the moment, but we are seeing some of those showers today across the island. And you can really see it tapping into some of that moisture. We've got a ridge of high pressure and all of that moisture kind of arcing up over Atlantic Canada at the moment. And this will continue tonight, just scraping the Avalon. Most of the rain will actually fall well south of Newfoundland. But there is a chance, now this is one model's interpretation, but there is a chance that we could see some significant rainfall from this at the southwestern corner of the province. We could pick up more than 20 millimeters potentially. Definitely going to have to keep an eye on that one, which I will do. And we'll talk about that a little later in the show.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, the province has released a new set of standards that will apply to all emergency shelters receiving government funding. It's a long-awaited move, but there may be another wait for the new standards to come into effect. Rob Antle reports.
Developing standards for emergency shelters has been a big job underway since last year. And putting those standards in place could come with a big price tag.
We're going to work with the shelter providers. Again, this is really early. We've just gotten this report, but I can tell you the cost is going to be significant, and obviously the provincial government's going to step up because it's an investment in people, and that's what we're doing here.
The standards focus on lowering the barriers to shelter access and on providing supports, basic needs and services, and training for staff, according to consultants hired to do the report.
A large part of the standards will also focus in on things like health and safety. It will be really clear that as we sort of look at lowering barriers, we're also being really clear low barrier doesn't mean no barrier. There's still expectations around how we treat one another in congregate settings.
That's been an issue in the past. Last year, CBC News used access information to reveal a litany of concerns about conditions inside some private shelters. Now, the minister says the new standards will be enforced.
So what are the consequences going to be for not meeting the standards?
We won't use the shelters.
But what if you need the space?
Pardon?
But what if you need the space?
Well, we go to a hotel situation.
The province has taken over this former hotel on Airport Road in St. John's to essentially do just that.
We have a phased plan where we're helping folks move in 25 at a time. So we reached our first target in 2 months now. Being able to hire a core leadership team, work with health, housing, community to develop a joint intake process to triage folks from the shelter system to move in has worked really well, and we anticipate, accelerating those timelines into the future.
But as for timelines on when the province will begin to enforce these new shelter standards, at this point, no commitment on when that will happen.
I'm not going to give you a specific time we're going to look at it, but I can tell you that even just from getting the draft earlier this week, we've already done some costing, and I'm going to be obviously looking for some more money to help implement these because I think it's necessary.
Rob Antle, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, today the province released a digital rendering of what the completed Team Gushue Highway will look like. This week, government announced plans to finish the final 3.5 kilometers. However, the final stages of the decades-old project will take 3 more years and about $30 million to complete. Well, a not-for-profit is working to preserve, protect, and promote cemeteries in Flat Rock and Pooch Cove. Northeast Avalon Memorial Gardens owns and operates 2 cemeteries and organized a Chase the Ace fundraiser last weekend, with the money going towards caring for the grounds. We dropped by to hear more about this passion project.
There's many family members here. My husband as well have many family members. His parents are here. My parents are here. It's just this cemetery is just full of my family and extended families. Well, it all started when, of course, the sale of the churches. We initially intended on purchasing the church and running it, and that kind of went out the door when the bishop wouldn't provide us with a priest. Then we thought about the cemeteries and said, well, maybe to have something of our own, for our community, we decided to take over the possession of the cemeteries, both here in Flat Rock and in Pooch Cove. We want to take care of our loved ones here on the cemeteries. We want to make this great. It's just, we're very passionate. Just want to make this a great, great project and just to expand and make this a nice, peaceful place to come.
Well, hundreds of students have arrived in St. John's, one stop on a 75-day journey aboard the Maine Maritime Academy. They're here as part of a 4-year program designed for students pursuing a slew of different majors, from marine biology to engineering. And as you're about to hear, there was a surprise taste of home when they cruised through the Narrows.
On the first day we pulled into port, there was a TV show, Reacher, that was filming an episode here, and everybody was pretty excited about it, and they got to see the actor who, played Jack Reacher and stuff. And then we found out that the episode that they were filming was supposed to be taking place in Portland, Maine. And so there was a part of Water Street that they had actually taken down all the signs and put up signs that said Portland, Maine on them, and they had all the cars there that had Maine license plates, and everybody was like, wait a second, we're all from Maine. We just showed up and we're back in Maine. We're back in Portland, Maine. So Maine Maritime Academy's, one of their primary missions is to train students to become licensed merchant marine officers, either as third mates. They qualify to become third mates as deck cadets, or as engine cadets, they qualify to become third assistant engineers.
When we go on these trips, it's to get sea time. So to qualify to sit for our licensing exams, you get used to it. It is a little bit of an adjustment and a challenge. It's been pretty good, actually, so better than you might think with 250 people living in close quarters.
They get their training, they get their sea days, and get an opportunity to visit some pretty neat foreign ports, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime type thing.
So for me, I only had 2 days to be able to go see St. John's, but I definitely want to come back. Before we even left, the captain had said that this is one of his favorite places.
Love St. John's. It's just an absolutely great city, super friendly, lots of things to do, lots of things to keep the cadets and the midshipmen active and occupied during their liberty time. Just to see the progression from them as a underclassman, as a freshman, just really 8 months ago they walked in, I wouldn't call them bright-eyed or bushy-tailed, but kind of, starry eyes, like, oh, what's happening? And then to see the progression and maturity and stuff as the freshmen, and then the upperclassmen of just, how much they've grown and experienced and matured, to be, they're just about ready to go out, and next year they'll take their license, they'll go out and they'll be out there doing this for real.
Well, staying on the waterfront, it's no cruise ship, but renting a super yacht like this one will definitely cost you. You're looking at the Samsara, a $150 million vessel. It's reportedly owned by the creator of Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling. The 88-meter super yacht can accommodate as many as 14 guests in its 7 cabins and is available for charter during the summer. Renting it for a week will reportedly set you back about $1.6 million Canadian. Well, the stage is set here in Bannerman Park, but one thing we'll be missing from this year's Folk Festival, and that's the fenced-off beer tent. For the first time, the Folk Festival is fully licensed. We'll tell you what that means for festival goers coming up.
And the all-important forecast. Will it rain this weekend? I'll tell you all about it coming up.
Ashley, as we saw just before the break there, I was down speaking with the folk festival organizers today, and they are definitely hoping for some good weather on the weekend. Folk festival is a big show tomorrow night and Saturday, Sunday. How are things looking?
Yeah, because the forecast over the last many years hasn't been that great. Actually, it's not a bad forecast for sure. You're definitely not going to need any boots, rain boots it looks like, so that's good news. But let's take a look at what's happening right now. That's kind of going to set the stage over the next couple of days. We do have about temperatures sitting a little cooler today in St. John's, about 22 this afternoon. Temperatures for Central, Gander only reached 21, but Badger, he reached 27 degrees. And up across Labrador, temperatures definitely more comfortable. About 22 in Lab City, and then towards the coast, those temperatures are in the teens. St. Anthony, you only reached about 16 degrees on the northern peninsula today. Let's take a look at what's going on right now. We do have some heavier showers working their way towards southwestern portions of the province at the moment. Most of that rain, though, is well to the west there over Nova Scotia. And as we head through tonight, we're going to continue to see some of those showers. Now, just zooming in, because there's been a couple of lines of some heavier precipitation moving through parts of the northeast coast there towards the Bonavista Peninsula. So just keep that in mind if you're out and about. You are likely going to see some showers, some heavier showers, yet again, move across the Bonavista Peninsula. Now, as far as what's going on right now, we're talking about a little bit of humidity in the air for sure. It's 22 in St. John's, feels more like 27. Gander feels more like 25. And as you head towards the west coast, still feeling like 26 in Corner Brook. Not so much up across the Big Land. And in fact, you are not going to see very much humidity. Your temperatures are going to start to climb over the next couple of days, but it isn't going to be associated with any humidity. That isn't the case across the island. I've had a number of questions saying, Ashley, when is this humidity going to break? Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we're not going to see too much in the way of relief. Now, there are a couple of times over the next week or so that you will see a bit of a drop, particularly overnight tonight. Again, on Saturday night, maybe. And then by Monday evening, it looks like we'll see a bit of that drop in humidity. But overall, we will still be feeling this sticky weather as we head into early next week. Now, for tonight, we're looking, now this model isn't doing particularly well on the showers that are showing up right now on the southwest. It seems to be a bit early, but it is showing the potential for some heavier rain tonight for the southwestern portion of the province. So if that does head a little bit further north, you could be seeing 20 plus millimeters of rain with this, and some areas along the south coast of Newfoundland could be seeing that as well, and potentially the Avalon through tomorrow morning. Now, the heaviest rain, like I said, I do think is going to stay to the south, but that potential still exists for tonight. So I do have those rain icons in there for you. Temperatures, in fact, along southern areas of the island are going to be quite warm tonight, about 17 degrees. Winds generally light, otherwise between 9 to 13 degrees across the island. Labrador, clear skies. For tonight, you're looking at temperatures not dipping too much, anywhere from 11 to 15 degrees. And then as we head into tomorrow, that rain will eventually taper off. Central, and we'll just see some cloudy periods. Same thing across the Avalon. Northern Peninsula, West Coast actually looks like a beautiful day. Most of Labrador looking at some sunshine tomorrow, but it does look like some showers will sink south as we head into the afternoon. And we may see a few showers tomorrow evening for eastern Newfoundland if you're planning on heading out for the Folk Fest. Again, won't be a washout by any means, but there may be the chance of a few showers before the show ends on Friday night. Now, as far as what's going on as we head into Saturday morning, we are going to see some of those showers head towards southeastern Labrador, and that will be through early Saturday morning. Temperatures tomorrow are going to be a little cooler for the Avalon. Same thing along the south coast, 18 to 20 degrees. Otherwise, mid to upper 20s for parts of central and the west coast. Winds will pick up a bit. Southeasterlies 20 to 40. It is going to be breezy up across Labrador. Those west winds will be gusting near 60 kilometers per hour. But look at that heat, 27 to 30 degrees. But it is dry heat, and we will see that continue as we head through the weekend. I'll get into that forecast coming up a little later.
Well, the stage is set and final preparations are underway here for the 48th annual Newfoundland and Labrador Folk Festival here at Bannerman Park. Now, things are going to look a little bit different this year compared to past years. And joining me now to talk more about that is Julie Vogt, the outgoing executive director, and the incoming executive director, Diana Daly. So, Julie, let's start with you. Things are already looking a bit different. I'm seeing fewer barriers, fences here in the park. So tell me what's changed this year.
Well, I think the last time I saw you was February, and we were embroiled in the licensing conundrum.
Yes, big debate going on about that.
Yes, and I'm happy to say we've been working on this since last October, and the NLC has chosen us to be the beta test site for a fully licensed main stage area. Children can go wherever they want. Parents and adults can take their chosen beverages and traverse the park at will. So there are some rules about that. You know, they can only get 2 beverages at a time at the kiosk, and minors must be accompanied by a legal guardian. So for this year, I think, you know what, we're not going to mess this up. We are going to show the NLC that we can drink responsibly. Just because you drink doesn't make you a drunk. Hard.
What does a beta test mean? Like, if this is successful, what will that mean going forward?
Well, it's not for us to say. We're not the NLC. But I think the NLC is trying to say, okay, this is the way it's done in Europe. This is the way it's done in most provinces in Canada. Maybe it's time to loosen some things up a little bit and let people show that they can be responsible. And our crowd always is. Every time we have a festival, we don't have incidents within our boundaries. People get it. You know, they're not watching Def Leppard or anything. You're watching Emmylou Harris. You know, you want to see her and remember her. You don't want to, you know, do a mosh pit in front of Steve Earle, I don't think.
Well,
okay, Diana's going to organize a mosh pit in front of Steve Earle, but not while she's drinking.
And no mosh pits probably with William Prince tomorrow night.
No.
And so, like, this means there won't be a beer tent, there won't be any, you can kind of just walk around wherever you like with a beverage.
You and I could be standing right here, right now, in this spot, which is right in front of the stage, with our folked up beer in hand. Thank you, Kitty Vitty.
What do you think this is going to mean for ticket sales this year? Do you think this will bring more people down to the park?
I think so, because when you think about a nice night in the park, the weather's beautiful, and you can sip on your tasty beverage of choice and not have to, you know, it broke my heart sometimes, to be honest, when I would see parents with babies strapped to their chest and they just wanted a beer and they couldn't take the baby in. So somebody's either outside of the fence with the baby. And now, come on down, get your chair, get your blanket, and remember what the Folk Festival is.
So we're in 48 years now. We're looking forward to our 50th anniversary and beyond. This organization has been lovingly built and passed on. We want to make sure it thrives, not just survives. So we want to make sure that we maintain the amount of programming that we have and make sure that we have an audience for it and that people are participating. So this is hopefully, the licensing factor, hopefully makes it more accessible for more people to be here. And that's really what we want. We want more people of differing backgrounds to be here.
A lot of competition these days too in terms of the festival circuit, a lot of different concerts happening. How has that affected the Folk Festival, and how are ticket sales going so far?
Well, there's only about 250 tickets left for Saturday night with Steve Earle and Emmylou Harris as the headliners, and Dwayne Andrews and the Hot Club of Conception Bay are quite before them. Our ticket sales for William Prince Band the night before, plus all the supporting acts for that, they're still available, but you should get them soon. And actually, you should just buy a weekend pass and have it over and done with. Sunday night is the headliner is the Ennis Sisters. I'm blanking. Portage, which is Jean Hewson and Christina Smith and
the Doug Dorwood Collective.
She's got it. And then in the daytimes, the programming is free. So in the back end of this park, from the gazebo down to Circular Road, completely free, no gates, no fences. You can come. We have Splash and Boots playing for the kids. We have a face painter. We have Newfoundland ponies. All of our traditions tents are down there. There's no cover. You can bring a picnic. we're happy to have you here. So that should help, you know, kind of, for those who have a barrier with a cost, you still have your folk life and your folk festival that's available to you.
Good luck with it, and thank you so much for telling us about it.
Thank you so much.
See you there.
We want to be a community space. We want youth and people of all ages to come and do the things that they love to do.
Well, at a time when many businesses are moving business online, this brick and mortar is just getting bigger. That story is still to come on Here and Now. Well, as the province's population ages, more and more families are facing the heartbreak and turmoil that can come with end-of-life care. Last night, we introduced you to one St. John's family whose loved one availed of the Medical Assistance in Dying, or MAID program. This after receiving a terminal cancer diagnosis. Dr. Aaron McKim is the director of MAID. He says even though medically assisted death has been legal since 2016, there's still not a lot of local awareness. Here's more of his conversation with Here Now's Mark Quinn.
There are a lot of misconceptions out there about MAID. I'd say the biggest one is that a lot of people don't even realize it's actually legal now. And I think that's true more so in this province than elsewhere. We have the lowest rates of people accessing MAID per capita in this province. And considering we've got one of the oldest populations, there's a fairly big discrepancy. And I think part of that is because some people aren't aware of it. You have to have a grievous and irremediable medical condition. So the grievous and irremediable is fairly well defined in that you have to have an enduring condition that causes suffering as determined by the patient, and that isn't amenable to being improved by any means that's acceptable to the patient. So most of the time that's fairly straightforward when you see it. So the vast majority of cases, I'd say 90, maybe even 95% of cases are very straightforward. There's somebody most of the time who has some cancer diagnosis. That's about 55% of the cases. And they've tried all kinds of treatments, and there's no hope of cure, and it's metastasized, and they're requiring more and more pain medication, and their quality of life is deteriorating, and they can't do the things that make their life meaningful anymore. And they're getting more and more suffering, less and less enjoyment, and it's only going to go one way. I had one patient say to me, he put it very succinctly, he said, "I'm as bad as I can stand to be, and it's just going to get worse from here." And you know, in cases like that, sometimes it's a comfort to patients to know that they have another option. They don't necessarily avail of it all the time. I'd say less than half the time they actually decide to have MAID. But knowing that they could have that if their suffering gets too bad, I think is a comfort to some people. It helps them to be less afraid of suffering. And that's got a therapeutic value. You know, there's value in that for a person. When often there's not a lot of things you can do to help somebody. It's something that you can do that makes people feel a little more in control of how things are going.
And for families, like, you know, I've heard people say that it was better to go in that way at that time.
I see families a lot. I think most of the time it's helpful in that grief process. They see that the patient has made a choice, and they have a fairly good idea of what to expect. And when I'm going in to do a MAID provision, I usually will, you know, make sure the patient knows what's going to happen, and I'll go through it again with them. But also because the family, I think, finds it helpful as well. You know, that I'm going to, you know, get an intravenous established. We're going to give these series of medications. When I give the first medication, it'll put you into a gentle sleep. When I'll give the second medication, it'll put you into a deep, deep coma. And when I give the third medication, it'll stop every muscle in your body. And so I tell patients and families that, and then they see it happen. And it's, I think, reassuring in some way that it's, you know, you expect it, and then you get what you expected. And I think it helps people with closure a little bit. I've done a lot of palliative care, working in long-term care and family medicine. And most of the time you can keep people fairly comfortable. But sometimes it's quite prolonged. And patients, and especially families, sometimes can suffer when it's days and days and days and days, and they don't know how much longer it's going to be. That can be pretty stressful. And I think sometimes this helps patients kind of take control of their final process. You know, often so much is out of control when you're at end of life. You can't control the disease anymore. You can't control where you live often, or your circumstances. And this allows people to control where, when, and how they exit, if they want. And I think that gives people some reassurance. It takes a little bit of the chaos away for them and for the families. And I've heard a lot of families afterwards say, you know, they went out on their own terms. I think that gives some comfort to families as well.
many shops are cutting back right now, opting to have a smaller physical footprint by bringing more business online. But East Coast Quilt Co. in downtown St. John's is doing just the opposite. On its 5th anniversary, this quilting and sewing business is relaunching and expanding its square footage by a couple thousand square feet.
We've taken on an additional 2,500 square feet, so we're now 7,500 square feet of crafting nirvana.
We like to have it nice and bright and spacious here, as well as lots of color and lots of people coming in and doing a variety of things. So we have lots of instruction that happens. We teach people how to sew, how to quilt, how to do hand embroidery. We've introduced weaving to the shop now. We have sewing machine repair.
We have the best selection of quilting cottons, probably, certainly east of Calgary, probably in Canada.
We were 5,000 square feet from here right back to the harbor window and the kitchen, and then we've now added another 2,500 square feet. So it enabled us to open up what was office space on this side and open that up to more retail, workshop space, and move the offices kind of a little bit to the background more, which has helped to kind of make it more spacious and more open and tidy.
And tourism has been very strong for
yes.
us in the summer months, which is traditionally a quiet time for your traditional quilt stores. So tourism carries us through the summer months, and our core local population and guilds carry us through the fall into the spring.
Mm-hmm. And tourists start in April because they're coming for icebergs and they're coming for whales and they're coming for those kinds of things, and then they come here for when they can't see outside through the fog. People will come in and say, do you have any Newfoundland fabric? And they've said that for years. And you know, Newfoundland doesn't print fabric, right? But having these exclusive designs that are so iconic, the imagery is so perfect that it's been very good for us. We like to be thought of as a community location. We will get people come in and on occasion they'll say, can my friend and I come and finish our project? And if the workshop space is available, by all means, come on in and do that. We have some guilds that come and do the National Embroiderers Day event that happens here every year. So yeah, we want to be a community space. We want youth and people of all ages to come and do the things that they love to do in a quiet, bright, spacious area.
It's been probably the hardest thing we've done
yes.
in our lives, but it has been the most satisfying to have people come around the corner when they come through the door and go, wow. It warms your heart.
It does. And our team is fabulous. They, you know, we can be quirky as well, but you know, we'll throw ideas out and brainstorm around them, and having people that, you know what, they flow with us. It's been very satisfying in that aspect as well. You have a vision, you try to bring that vision to life, and piece by piece it's happening.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Canada expects to reach NATO's defense spending target of 2% of GDP in 2032. Trudeau made the announcement today in Washington on the final day of the NATO Leaders Summit.
We have shown that a responsible government steps up in a changing world and does the necessary work, not just to increase defense spending, but to do it in the right way.
Canada has been under pressure from allies to produce a plan to hit the military alliance's spending benchmark. While Canada has increased defense spending by 57% over the last 10 years, it still lags behind its allies. Also at the summit, Canada signed a new agreement with the U.S. and Finland to build up to 90 polar icebreakers to expand NATO access to the Arctic and help deter Russian and Chinese ambitions in the far north. Serial killer Jeremy Skibitsky has been found guilty of first-degree murder in the killings of 4 Indigenous women. He admitted to the 2022 killings in Winnipeg, but argued he was not criminally responsible because of mental illness. A judge dismissed that argument. Cameron McIntosh has the latest, but first a warning: the story does contain graphic details that some will find disturbing.
The question in this case was never whether Jeremy Skibitsky was responsible for the deaths of Mercedes Myron, Morgan Harris, Rebecca Contois, and a 4th unidentified woman known in the community here as Buffalo Woman. The question was whether he was criminally responsible. Skibitsky, from the very beginning, his first interview with police, admitted that he not only killed the women, but had sex with their corpses, dismembered the bodies, and disposed of the remains in garbage bins. When the trial began, his defense argued that he suffered from mental disorders, including schizophrenia, that left him mentally incapable to understand the criminality of those acts. However, Justice Glenn Joyal says the evidence just wasn't enough to demonstrate that he didn't understand what he was doing, that the Crown laid out enough evidence to demonstrate that Skibitsky singled out these women, preyed upon them, and planned their murders, driven by hatred and sexual fetish. Family members of the victims said they were satisfied with today's decision.
We got the convictions we wanted. We're elated to hear that that monster will never step foot out of a prison again. And I hope that when he does leave, he's going out in a body bag.
This story is far from over. It's believed that the remains of at least 2 of the women are in a landfill north of Winnipeg. The provincial government has agreed to search for those remains. Preliminary work is underway. The family members of the victims say they won't rest until those remains are recovered. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Yes, and as you just saw, the daughters of Morgan Harris, one of 4 Indigenous women murdered, spoke out today following Skibitsky's conviction.
We may have put that monster away, but our heartbreaks, they're not over yet. We still need to search for my mom's body, for Mercedes' body, for Buffalo Woman's body. And that's going to be even more heartbreaking.
And he said it very loud and clearly. He callously did it. It was racially driven. Mm-hmm. And that was enough. That was enough. There's more work to be done.
We got
absolutely,
our justice.
but we got our justice. Mm-hmm. And I was thankful that instead of looking them as a name on a list, they treated them as human beings in that courtroom.
Now, for anyone affected by this story who find these reports and issues involving missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls difficult to digest, there is support. You can call the national hotline. The number is there on your screen for immediate assistance and crisis assistance 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We'll be right back. Time for a look at the long range, and we get to look ahead to the weekend. We were talking about the folk festival earlier in the show, and Saturday is looking good.
It looks pretty decent. Yeah, I do think if we see any showers, it'll be Friday night, but Saturday at this point looking pretty nice. Let's take a look at what's going on out there. So there are some showers that will move in across the Labrador through the overnight and into the first half of Saturday morning. They should reach the coast, the southeast coast, by the morning hours. And for at least the beginning of the day, it does look like some cloudy periods along southern areas of the island as well as the Avalon. But the sun should peek out at times through the afternoon and evening. Some of those showers will work their way towards the northern peninsula as we get into the evening, and there may be a few showers through central that develop as well. But overall, just a bit unsettled through the day. It is going to be warm though, and we will see a return of that humidity as well. Temperatures between 25 to 29 degrees through central. Along the south coast, a tad cooler than that, anywhere from 20 to 23 degrees, and then sunshine at least into the afternoon across Labrador, sitting between 16 to 18 degrees on the coast, and then anywhere from 21 to 25. But again, so much cooler air moving in, more comfortable air, but again, it will be humid across the island. Overnight and into Sunday morning, skies will likely start cloudy, but we should see some sunshine again through the afternoon. We'll see some showers and potential for some thunderstorms for Lab West and then into the evening hours through central Labrador as that moves through, but there would likely see that towards the coast as well. Keep that in mind tomorrow, or keep that in mind for Sunday rather. Overall, your temperatures are going to start to warm up again in Lab City and hang around where you're going to sit for most of the weekend for central and coastal areas of Labrador. And a bit of a roller coaster ride across the island as well. So we'll see temperatures drop likely into the teens on Sunday. So very different story across the Avalon. This is the best chance of some showers, I do think. That will be the case through central as well. And along the south coast, showers potentially in the morning, but you should see some sun at times through the afternoon. The long range forecast, a bit of warming as we head into Monday and then eventually into Tuesday as well. It does look like Monday will be a bit unsettled and then some cloudy periods for your Tuesday. But overall, overnight lows really not moving too much, anywhere from 15 to 17 degrees. Now for central Newfoundland, you're looking at a warm stretch of weather, 27 to 29 degrees through the afternoon with some sunshine. Generally in the forecast, western Newfoundland, you are looking at warming, a little bit of a cool down by the time we get into Tuesday, but still very seasonable temperatures and some sunshine to start out next week. And for Labrador, you're looking at temperatures cooling down definitely by the time we get into Monday and Tuesday with the risk of some thunderstorms. And for western Labrador, you are also looking at a cool down to the teens, it looks like, by the time we get into Tuesday. Our weather photo of the day is of, what is this? Can't remember. Oh yeah, First Pond in Cambo. Thank you to Rod with great shots. Captured a bunch of other shots too that were absolutely beautiful. A little bit more red in the tinge to the sky. But yeah, great shot there. Nice calm evening. We appreciate that photo. If you have any, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, it looks like the sky is on fire.
It does.
Yeah, it's beautiful
Very lovely.
though. Yeah. So mental note, outdoor activities planned for Saturday rather than Sunday.
Yeah,
Okay.
especially if you want some warmth in there. But natural air conditioner, I guess.
Yeah, that's
on
right.
Sunday.
Rain is good for the ground and good for the plant.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.